Here, there is one sentence which shows why these are exceptions, because it is their work to move about attending to each other. A child who has not yet reached puberty is within the house, is continuously moving about. If the child has to continuously seek permission, it is very difficult. Thus, only at the special times should these exceptions seek permission. And now, another issue in the verse, quote unquote, what their right hands own. Are they female or male slaves? We said male slaves. In this area again, the traditions have said this. In Kafi, it has been recorded from Imam as-Sadiq alayhi salam. What is meant is male slaves who do not have to seek permission except at the 3 times. Not female slaves, because women are mahram to women. They asked, do women need to seek permission at these 3 times? He said, no, it is not necessary. There is another tradition in which it is questionable if female slaves are meant, but male slaves are clearly indicated. It can be said that men are meant and not women in this verse, because here the pronoun is exclusive to the masculine. They are the slaves of these women, and we could say perhaps only women are meant, but here the masculine plural appears. That is, those men who are your slaves do not need to get permission other than at those 3 times. Thus, they are clearly mahram. And does this abrogate the other? No. Whatever is said in the other verse, that male slaves and children who have not reached puberty are mahram, is the same here. These two then correspond, and this also corresponds with what has appeared in the traditions, in particular Shiite traditions. Of course, they do not conform with the religious edicts. Let us move beyond this. Those who are, quote unquote, what their right hands own, must not seek permission, and also sons who have not reached puberty, except at 3 times. The masculine plural is referred to and not women. Their work is to move about attending to each other, and thus does God make clear the signs for you. Quote unquote, when your children reach puberty, they must always seek permission to enter. Thus does God make clear His signs for you. The 2 exceptions which we had, one was in relation to male slaves, and the other in relation to children who have not attained puberty. The 3rd exception is, quote unquote, such women as are past childbearing age. In the previous section, it was said that women had to cover themselves and not reveal their adornment, except that which is outward, and what is meant is the face and hands. In the next sentence, they are told to cover their necks with their scarf, except women who are past childbearing age. If we compare this verse to the previous one, it is clear that women have 2 layers of clothes, the outer and the inner. In the former verse, when you take off your outer garments, is again referred to here. Thus, A woman can take off her outer garment. Beyond this? No. They can take off their outer clothes, but they must not draw attention to themselves. Even though all of these exceptions exist, it is better if a woman does not show herself to a man. It is better if a man does not look at a woman. These exceptions are because of needs that may arise. Islam is not a religion which wants to cause fault or blame to its followers. When there is no necessity or need or difficulty, it is better to observe the modest dress. As I mentioned before, perhaps there is a class that men and women want to attend. Both will benefit from it, but they do not need to be in the same room. It is better if they are in separate rooms. Here, at the same time that women have reached a certain age is an exception, it is still better if they do not, for instance, take off their outer garment and they remain like other Muslim women. God is all-knowing. In particular reference to the wives of the Holy Prophet, we have two more verses in Surah Al-Ahzab which we will refer to, and then we will end our discussion on the modest dress. One verse relates to the particularities of the wives of the Holy Prophet. Before Islam, in the houses of the people, according to the custom, there was no modest dress. There was complete intermixing of men and women. The people were then not accustomed to announcing their entrance. They would enter the home of the Holy Prophet unannounced and go through all of the rooms. And if they were invited to dinner, it would be hours before they left. They would stretch out their legs and begin to hold long discussions. This bothered the Holy Prophet, and he was embarrassed to ask them to leave. Then, chapter 33, verse 53 was revealed. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And when you ask his wives for something you want, ask them from behind a curtain. That makes for greater purity for your hearts and theirs. Whenever the ulama referred to the verse on the modest dress, they meant this verse. This is what the word hijab means. The word hijab here has nothing to do with the word hijab, which we refer to when we say women should cover such and such parts of their body. Thus, this has nothing to do with our discussion and refers to people who should not enter the house of the Holy Prophet without announcing their entrance. And if they want something, they should take it from behind a curtain. The verse on the outer garment, jilbab. But there is another verse in this surah which relates to our discussion. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. O Prophet, say to your wives and daughters and the believing women that they draw their outer garments close to them, so it is more proper that they may be known and not hurt. God is all forgiving, all compassionate. Now, if the hypocrites do not give over, and those in whose hearts there is a sickness, and they make commotion in the city, we shall assuredly set you against them, and then they will be your neighbors there only for a little while. Chapter 33, verses 59 to 60. All of the commentators agree that there were certain events occurring to which this verse is related to in Medina. There was a group of hypocrites and corrupt people who bothered people, and in particular, slave women. Then when they were asked why they were doing this, they said, "We thought they were slave women." Slave women are among the exceptions. They do not need to cover themselves from non-mahram men, and if they had outer garments, they did not wear it in a way to cover their hair. Very often, Muslim women would walk down the street at night, and this group of hypocrites would bother them. When they were caught, they would always use the excuse that they thought the women were slave women. The verse was revealed for them to cover themselves and in this way be recognized, so the hypocrites would not bother them, or at least they would no longer have that excuse. Some have commented on this verse in a different way. They say that it means that the women be recognized that they are not this way, to be sold and bought, because they say if a woman maintains her honor and respect and has a serious attitude about herself, even the hypocrites will show her respect. If they know that she is not among the other women, and if she conducts herself with dignity, they will not bother her. Thus, this verse refers to particular events which had occurred, and they are told to make their clothes a sign so that they be recognized apart from slave women. Then the verse threatens those who bothers others that if they do not desist, quote unquote, we will set you against them. Now let us see what limits were set so that they are recognized as being separate from the slave woman. The verse says, quote unquote, draw your outer garments close to them. How close? They said they must cover their heads, and some even said their shins, so that this be their sign of difference with slave women. It is not very clear exactly what the jilbab looked like. In the Munjid, it says it is a loose, flowing dress. If it were a dress, this verse would not then be telling them to cover their hair. Raghib Isfahani in the Mufradat, which is a very reliable book on the definition of words, having defined the words of the Holy Quran very well, says that it means both dress and scarf. There is a tradition from Imam al-Rida alayhi salam about women who are beyond a certain age, from which it becomes clear that it was something which covered the head. He said they may put aside the jilbab. There is no problem if one looks at the hair of an old woman. Here, it is not clear if the jilbab covered the hair and the head. In another tradition, it would appear that the jilbab differed from the khimar, but the difference is not clear. Perhaps it was larger. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam was asked what these women can take off, and he said their jilbab and khimar, that is, their outer garment and scarf. There are 2 points which can be made use of in this verse. The first is that this verse adds nothing more to the verse from Surah An-Nur. Why? Because this verse refers to particular events which were occurring at that time, not a total ruling for all times. And secondly, the verse just says to draw the jilbab closer to themselves.